I knew I didn't want to be a personal trainer forever, but I knew it was the route I wanted to go was fitness or fitness adjacent. I don't tend to have like the tiniest waist.
Man, I was playing the size game like a lot of people trying to get bigger. My waist sort of got out of control. My last year of competing, I brought it down, I think 7 inches or something like that on stage. What was training like then as compared to where you've landed now?
The thing that remained the same is always across time has been intensity. At the time, what made the most sense to me was let me make this hurt as badly as possible. It wasn't until I was around 30 that I actually was like, I could train exactly like I am right now until I'm 60, 78 years old.
You look like a rhinoceros.
10-second 40. He had a heart attack right after he finished that sprint. 180 heart rate after sprinting. If you think that you have a goal and you're gonna get happy when you get there, you're not. But you're seeing the progress you made and you're just like, what is that? It is a culmination of every single moment, every single one of those hard reps. I just absolutely love it.
One of the things that fascinated about me when you and I had our first conversation a couple days ago was generally when I speak to bodybuilders, there's not a huge amount of thought and intentionality behind what they do. It's just this like, hey man, they sort of fell into it and it works for them. And most bodybuilders are very, very blessed. And there's not a lot of, not a lot of intentionality. It seems like you've landed on something that's unique to you that works seemingly universally, but there's obviously nuance to that. But I'd love to just kind of reverse into, as I said prior to our chat, I jumped online and I was like searching some of your stuff and like, you were fucking yoked even before you got into this. You're obviously very, very fit, athletic. I'd love to know where that started for you. Like, when did this bug of bodybuilding kind of catch in your mind?
Yeah, no, it's first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Huge fan of you and all your work, and I think you're definitely a thought leader in the space, but you live in the nuance, which I think is so important. So many people live in the absolutes, which I think can be dangerous, especially in the training game. Everybody's different. Everybody has different goals. They're at different levels, different ages. So I think nuance is everything when it comes to fitness specifically. And how it got started for me, I actually started very young with falling in love with training. I had a little bit of a unfortunate circumstances in my childhood, and I always caveat that with I had amazing parts of my childhood, but my mom, who I was very close with, struggled with mental health issues. She was bipolar, and she unfortunately took her life at when I was about 9 or 10 years old. So
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's brutal. But through that, I had one of my older brother's friends. He's 3 years older than me. His best friend ended up becoming one of our good family friends. Ended up becoming a state level power lifter. And so he was like, Eric, come to the gym. Let's take out some of that aggression, because I would go to football practice and try to just knock people's heads off. And he's like, yeah, we gotta curtail this somehow. So went to the gym, and it was like instant love affair. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of you guys can commiserate with that, getting in there for the first time and feeling like your first pump, or, training hard. It was fun. And so I didn't really understand why I was doing it, but at the time, what made the most sense to me was let me make this hurt as badly as possible. And so didn't know why I was doing it, but I would be doing, let's say, a preacher curl, and I would do it with, let's say, a 25-pound plate on the easy bar, and I'd go as slow as I could on the down, and I would pause, and then I'd drive out, and I almost use a little momentum to get up, so I almost do being forced negatives, where I'd be a little bit more explosive on the concentric, and it felt like my arms were gonna fall off because they would get so sore, they get so pumped. At the time, I was 11.
Wow.
And so people would even ask me at the gym when I'm 12 years old, oh, why are you doing it like that? And I was like, I don't know. It literally burns terribly, and I want that for myself because not the best headspace. So put my music in and listen to Skrillex and just try to just demoralize myself. And so I think I've always had that kind of imposter syndrome around bodybuilding, especially since I don't have an educational background of econ, accounting, finance major, like I mentioned, and worked in finance for a couple of years out of school. So I've always felt like whenever I'm doing something, it's practical. I'm actually in the gym. The gym is my lab, and then I kind of back into like, wow, this is working really well for me and working really well for my clients and the people I teach, that I'm almost backing into the science of it. And so I don't ever pretend to be some sort of scientist or high level expert. What I know to be is somebody that's been doing this for 20 years, fell in love with it at a very young age, and I don't think I've taken more than probably 5 days off of the gym in my from 11 years old to current day. I don't think I've ever been out of the gym for more than maybe 4 days.
And until I retired, I hadn't taken longer than 3 days off ever. Mm-hmm. And then when I retired, I was like, because, my story going from like 315 down to like 230 was like...
You went pro in 08?
08, yeah. But losing effectively 80 pounds of muscle, you can't go to the gym. If you go to the gym and do anything, like you're keeping that muscle.
I'll come back.
Yeah, that was funny because in 2018, I was trained with Derek for the Olympia, and I went from 228 to 262 in like 5 weeks or some crazy thing just by training with him once a day. And so like that, we're in the same boat. I think it's somewhere between an obsession and an addiction. I'm not sure which one it is. I think they're both useful. But man, when I looked at your sort of fitness modeling photos, when was that? When did you get
that?
That
was in my 20s. And so that was the time we were joking that when people would tell me I was natural until I was 27 and a half. And when people would say like, oh yeah, like Eric, because I worked in finance for about 2 years, and then got my NASM certification while I was still working, started taking clients on the weekends, and just like fell in love with it. And just was like, this is what I want to do. And I knew I didn't want to be a personal trainer forever in terms of like in person, like one-on-one training. But I knew it was the route I wanted to go was fitness or fitness adjacent. And so when I left, my whole identity was around aesthetics. And so when somebody would say, Eric's the bodybuilder, I'd say like, no, I'm not a bodybuilder. No. Because I'd associate bodybuilding with performance enhancement, with kind of lack of aesthetics, especially at the time. Sure. So it was unfortunate. It was like the bubble gut era. So it was like, I don't want to be seen as even close to a bodybuilder. I wanted to do like the muscle model, WBFF. I wanted to be like the next Sergi Constance kind of thing. So it wasn't until I was around 30 that I actually was like, you know what, I want to see what my physique is made of, because it was taking all of the training principles I've been building and then obviously adding a little fuel to the fire, so to speak, and seeing what I could make of it.
You said when you started training, you trained differently than you do now. I'd love to go back and be like, what did that look like? Meaning, you said you're the guy who had knee pain, you guy who had lower back pain, and then what was training like then as compared to where you've landed now? I
think that the thing that remained the same is always across time has been intensity. Like training intensity has always been high, but there was more of a hyper focus on weight and the weight moved, especially being in a football mentality through college. It's like if you're doing a max squat and you get to 90, like that counts, right? So if I'm squatting 585 to 90 over and over again, and I think we have enough data now to show that, stopping at 90 degrees is probably going to be, in terms of super heavy loads for certain joints, maybe not as good as full RUM. So for me, it was always that. And so when I got out of college and was trying to be as lean as possible, but also try to push intensity to the nth degree, it was also natural. I think all these things kind of compounded. No rest days. If I had a rest day, it would be like doing like a 5, 7, 8, 10 mile hike kind of thing. So I didn't really ever give my body time to recover. And then on top of that, training was more focused on moving weight from A to B. I still use probably some eccentric loading, but not nearly to what I do today, and definitely not the emphasis on full ROM training. And I think that once I switched that methodology is when I really saw my physique explode, of detaching myself from only the weight used and attaching myself to, okay, the weight is important, but within the confines of, am I actually stimulating the target muscle group? And is this like I think you made that great point of like thinking, can I train like this for the next 10 years? And at the time, the answer was absolutely not. And now I feel like I could train like this until I'm 60. Obviously, understanding the load that I'm pushing is going to be much, much less over time. But I have no doubt, zero hesitation in my mind for me to say that I could train exactly like I am right now until I'm 60, 78 years old.
Yeah, the biggest mistake I made throughout my career at certain times was trying to shorten the ranges, because I was like, oh, maybe I can shorten this range and still get away with the same, or get the same benefit. And that was just a horrible mistake. Like, I shortened my hack squats by 20 degrees. You wouldn't notice to the naked eye, but I knew my hips started to hurt, my knees started to hurt. I'm like, what's going on here? You go back to this full range, you're like, oh, did I grow more? I don't know. But like, I can tell you objectively that my knees and my hips are better when I'm using these full ranges that I watched you do yesterday. Mm-hmm. So like, you've landed on something useful. There's some nuance here though, right? So the challenge with coming on here and me saying this is the right training for everybody, which is not what we're saying. The challenge that people run into is when there's a difference between left and the right? So your mobility is very good, seemingly across the board. The people who have issues from left to right, one side moves better than the other. If we start going into these deep ranges, that's when we start having these rotational things that happen, and that's when people get hurt. So like, anyone listening, watch we'll talk about what your training looks like, but you always have to train to the limited side. If there's a limited side, because like avoiding a back injury for you on those leg presses is for sure possible. But if you start to feel like, oh, my hip's not moving so well on my left side today, and you start doing this stuff at the bottom of a leg press with 800 pounds on, you're like, oh, boom, back, right? So it's never in like a singular plane. Like, if you're just in the sagittal plane, you're going to be great. As soon as you go into a little bit of rotation, things happen. So I just want to sort of throw out that nuance as we transition into what training looks like for you. So I watched you do these leg presses yesterday and these hack squats and these leg exercises, and it wouldn't be possible to get any more range of motion. You go so far as to put a pad behind you. Well, it's a compliment, man. Like, you go so far as to put a pad behind you so you don't bottom out the machine, and you're taking your knee, your hip, and your ankle through its entire excursion, and you're strong. So most people go through the entire excursion and they throw it out of that weight, or they bounce it out of that position. Like, no, you're like, no, I stop. And I'm strong from that position, which is in perfect alignment to what I teach, or what I believe is accurate. It's like, you got to get strong at every inch of the range. Tell me about that, man. How'd you land there, and why is this something you've adopted?
I mean, honestly, like, it's a lot of it's practical. I think my range of motion has improved over time, and I don't do any mobility outside of my training, and that's why I kind of preach this to be a pretty effective modality for people that have limited time, because if you can use a little less weight and push through a little bit more lengthened range of motion, you're going to create these stretch adaptations, almost like a forced partner stretch. And so I kind of just kept playing with it, like, how far can I take this? And my ankle mobility kept improving. My hip mobility kept improving. My lower back pain went away. My knee pain went away. There was times when my knee pain would be so bad that, like, just like if I sat down for too long, like if we were sitting here for, let's say, an hour, to get up, there's no way I would just be like, oh, let's get up. I would literally like use the side of the chair and kind of like, because the pain would probably be pretty extensive after sitting in a position where I could literally sit here for the next 2 hours and go and dunk a basketball. Like, that's how like healthy my joints are at this point. And so it just was playing with it. It's like, how deep can I do this without feeling pain? And it was like almost opposite. It was like, oh, I feel so much better. It was a funny story. There was a guy, and you saw me trying to always help people at the gym, and probably a little bit unsolicited at times. But that being said, there was somebody doing the hack squat, and it was like, I seen him working out, and probably in his like early 40s, late 30s. And I said, have you ever tried it with the foam roller? I was just walking by him because I had just left my bag there. And he's like, oh, no, what do you mean? So I was like, oh, let me set it up for you. So I went and grabbed the foam roller from across the way. He's probably like, what the hell is this guy doing? So I come in and show it to him. He's got 3 1/4 on this. This guy's got like no business doing 3 1/4. Like it's like, there's not a chance in hell he's going like getting even 2/3 way down and getting back out for 1 rep. So I show him this. I'm like, hey, let me show you the foam roller. I'm like, just trust me on this. You're going to have to go down to like 50% of the weight. So he's like, oh, I've got really bad knees. I'm like, I'm really careful about range of motion. So I'm like, just trust me on this. Just hear me out.
Right.
So we work our way down. We get all the way down to like, because he tries with 2 plates, and like, he's just like, you tell he's just like really nervous. I'm like, hear me out. Let's go down to 25s, and we'll just see how it feels. So we get down to that super lengthened position. He's like, deeper than he thought he could ever get on this after working it down after like, 5, 6, 7 reps. And by like the 7th rep, he's like, his legs are like shaking.
Gosh.
And I was and he barely got out of like that 7th rep. And he was like, holy shit, like I didn't even know this was possible to, first of all, go to that range. And I was like, how do your knees feel? He was like, oh,
great.
I was like, oh my God, they feel great. It was like they felt terrible after the first 2 sets. Yeah. And I was like, how do your quads feel? Like, oh, like pumped out of my mind. And so I'm not saying chase the pump. I'm not saying that, pump is indicative of necessary growth. But now as we increase that range of motion, the amount of torque required from get to B to A is going to increase. So that weight is going to become heavier from a mechanical perspective. And so if we can do that, and it's not so heavy, and then we start to create those, you get used to that style of training, you're not going to get that like damage that's highly associated with full ROM training. Sure, if you do it for the first time with me on a leg day, yeah, you're going to be pretty sore, but you do it 5 times, 10 times, you're going to have the same level of soreness I have right now after like what most people would be like, watch me and Carlos train us to be like, dude, you're going to be sore for a month. But for me, I'm like 3.5 out of 10. It'll probably be gone by tomorrow. I could probably train legs, which I will again on Saturday and be completely fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance there in what you're saying. So when I hear you say that I have no more joint pain, there's probably a lot to that the average listener won't understand. So somebody who's been training as long as you have, with as much intentionality behind what you're doing, you're selecting exercises that make your body balanced. Mm-hmm. And that's not a given for the average person, right? So when you're training your let's say leg press to full knee flexion, like all the way to the bottom, you're probably also doing the thing that trains out on the other side of the joint. So full extension, you're probably, right? So you're doing both sides of the joint. And that's really important for the listener to acknowledge is like, if I'm going to take my hip into full hip flexion, I also want to take my hip into full hip extension. And so both of those are really important. And then you're creating sort of balanced joint forces that allow the joint to work in its most optimal centrated position. And so like the things you do, probably unconsciously now, the average listener won't. And I think that's important just to acknowledge like, hey, this stuff can work, but don't just like watch it. Because what'll happen is they'll watch you do a leg press like, oh, Eric says I have to do this leg press, ass to ankles and my knees touch my ears. But they don't realize there's probably 4 other exercises that you're doing with that as well to balance out the stimulus around a joint. Just want to throw that out there to people because, some people hear sound bites or this may be extracted for a YouTube video or an Instagram video. And like, hey, there's a lot to what you do. It's not just like, hey, this is the one thing that I do in this one way. There's a way that you write a program. There's a way that you think in your mind that is deep. It's a lot deeper than the superficial stuff.
And one other thing I'll say to that is like, it's progressive.
Yeah.
So you should not try to push to my range of motion day one. You're hit, like you will literally like, I will have somebody that tries to do this with me and like it's super light weights and I'm like have to be like no do not do that. Well, they'll like their lower back will be so far off the thing because their hip and glute and adductor mobility is just so sorry, don't want to swear, so bad that they're just getting so rolled off. And I'm like no, we have to take it down progressively. It's going to take you probably a month, 2 months, 3 months doing this over and over safely before you can push to that, like even close to the range of motion I'm getting to. This took me years to do. To your point too, I try to think through, especially for example, like my Bulgarian split squat Smith machine are extremely deep. But for example, like I have a lot more tightness in my left side when I do them. So I focus even more on like creating that stretch on my left hip as opposed to my right, which tends to be a little bit more opened up. My right leg is also like 1/4 to a 1/2 inch longer than my left leg, and that's also a consideration for me. And that's why I kind of moved away from heavy back squatting because I have a little bit of a kind of my right butt cheek drops slightly lower than my left, and it's just due to this kind of length and balance in my legs. So when I would go super duper heavy on a squat, I would be almost at risk for that. Whereas I've kind of curtailed that with like more of a narrow stance, and that imbalance doesn't present itself as much, and just shifting my feet just ever so slightly. So I think it's also, to your point, the nuance. Everything's in the nuance, right? Should you do leg press like me day one? No. Should you leg press maybe a little bit more like me? Maybe. Could work for you. Maybe it's something you don't enjoy. Maybe it's something that you do and you're like, I hate this and I don't ever want to come back to the gym again. In which case, it's not for you. So I think everything lives in the nuance and understanding that maybe, that's why I always say in every single YouTube video you watch me do, I always say, hey, this is something you can do. But what I would suggest even more so is take 20% of this or 30% of this. Instead of doing, you know, a 6-second eccentric and a 1-second pause and leg press, do at least a 2 to 3. You know, I think it's always like, if you can just find a middle ground and take a little bit or a little piece of information here that you like and a little piece of information there that you like, or an exercise selection, you're like, oh, I haven't done a lying cable lateral raise. Let me try it out. And then they do, and they're like, DM me like, wow, like that was probably the best, you know, lateral delta exercise I've ever done in my life. And I'm like, cool. But some people are like, oh, just grab some dumbbells, you dingbat, you know what I mean? So it's, I think it's always going to be about the individual and what works well for them.
There's so much that exists within exercise that can be useful, but not all things are useful to all people in all situations. And like, as people who, are sort of fitness, I hate the word influence, but fitness authorities, I think we have the ability to access all those tools, but the listeners, like, I don't know what, I may have access to some tools, but I don't know where to apply which one. So they look to you, they look to me to be like, hey, where do I apply this one? Is this the most useful tool for me? And that's ultimately what coaching is, right? That's where we've developed these coaching programs where you're like, hey man, you could do all these 100 things, or you could just do that one, because I know that's the most important for you. So when you watch somebody squat or leg press or any of these exercises, like, this is the way you need to do it for your body based on what you're capable of doing today. So there's a lot, just sort of like reinforcing what you're saying about nuance. You bring up YouTube, man. What random question, but what's your most successful YouTube video?
Moderating a discussion between two of my close friends, Mike Israetel and Greg Doucette, which a video I didn't even want to do, nor did I want to post on my channel. I'm very close with both of them, and they had for a long time this internet beef, and so I sat down with them at the Arnold on camera
this year,
literally like 2 months ago. It's got almost like 1 million views now, so long form. So I've done crazy viral stuff on short form, but in terms of long form views, which is really sad because I've put so much time into some of my other videos.
And it's funny, it's funny, I grew up in Canada and I didn't get pulled into the NPC is very catty. It's high school. It's like dramatic. This person's banging this person. This person's.
Well, I know you probably have a bunch of like Greg stories.
I don't, in fact. So, man, I was just so oblivious to all this shit. I was like, man, I go to the gym. I go home. I don't get into anyone's drama. And now this YouTube is becoming the same thing. I'm like, fuck, like, you get all these guys who have great followings and they're supposed to have this great knowledge, but all they do is.
You're getting pulled into it for sure now.
Oh, no, I'm not. No,
oh, thank goodness for you, man. Because
I'll never get pulled into it.
Well, some of these people hate each other, man. It's crazy. Like, based over like theory. Like, oh, you like training to 100-degree ramen. You like training to like,
You're an idiot. And I was like,
yeah, like, it's just like
okay,
crazy.
Let's have a conversation, right? I mean, dude, there's some of my people in this world who hate me because I tend to be opinionated, but like, I'm not going to hate you back, man. Go for it. Like, do your thing. It is what it is. But I mean, I'll never get pulled into the bullshit. I'll never get pulled.
I don't like to. I mean, like, I'm like, if you probably get the vibe from me, I'm like the most like zero.
Yeah, you're chill. That's why I was like, yeah, we could probably have a good chat, man. Probably something useful. So, other than the dramatic video, which ones have done well for you? Like, what do people on YouTube know you for?
Definitely like the exercise videos, like specific to my training methodology. Obviously, I have to unfortunately package it up to like. Top 4 exercises or the last 4 exercises.
I'm doing it too. I hate it.
You have to, because like then you can get into the nuance once they've decided that they want to click into the video. But if you're like, 5 back training tips that will like elicit a better like growth response, you're gonna get like no clicks. 0. But if you're like the last 3 back exercises you ever need to do to grow your lats, people are like, oh yeah, I'll click into that.
Sure. So I'm trying to do it on Instagram now. It's even shorter. I'm like, nah, I got to go to YouTube. Like long form. Are you an Instagram? Yep. You do have a pretty significant Instagram.
Yeah, I've got a big Instagram following.
To me, the longer form at least gives you an opportunity to go into the nuance, which is so important, but nobody wants it. Interesting, man. Actually, one of the things that came up as I pulled up your profile today was you sprinting at a show. Tell me what that was about.
Right? I mean, I like to have fun with the content too. So it's like people have. I've gotten plenty of like super viral videos with me running, like sprinting.
Yeah, because you look like a rhinoceros. Like I did this. That's not an offensive. Like I felt the same when I was competing.
So it's like, I mean, I'm actually like decently.
Yeah, you move really well.
Move well. Yeah. For my size, so like people have enjoyed my running videos.
Yeah.
But like they get super viral because they get equal amounts. People be like, wow, like I can move at his size. And then even more so the like, 10-second 40 and he he had a heart attack right after he finished that sprint, or 180 heart rate after sprinting, like just like kind of clowning on me for being like, bodybuilder trying to run.
But it's true. I mean, it's a stereotype, but like we're not built to run,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're obviously an athlete.
So I think, so that's, I tend to do, try to balance on Instagram a good amount of like information-based content with, I used to do it more, but like the fun content, skit content. But now that I'm really wanting to be seen as a little bit more of like a serious educator in the space, I've kind of moved somewhat away from it, but I know it's still important because I think people see that about me and they're like, oh, Eric's like this huge dude, but he actually also has like a personality and like likes to have a good time. I don't know if you saw the escalator posing video. That was pretty funny too.
No.
That was funny.
What was that?
I'm with Jared Feather. He's going up the other way. Do you know who Jared Feather is? He's a pro. He's like Mike's kind of counterpart in RP strength.
Yep.
So he's going up the escalator and I'm coming down. I'm like posing. Like this is right after I got off stage. And I was like, oh, it'd be really funny if I'm coming down this escalator and Jared's going up and he's like seeing me for the first time and it's like love at first sight. And then he's like trying to go chase me down, like going the opposite way down the wrong escalator to try to like catch me. And like, that's the whole reel. So it's just like stupid little stuff like that performs well. Granted, this escalator had like the best lighting of all time. I was just joking. If I could bring this escalator,
gotta jump on it. Yeah. It's like the turf.
I got short stuff, but like that's the stuff that gets like 2, 3, 5 million views. And then I do a really informational reel on like how to reduce knee pain in a hack squat. And it gets like 240,000. So it's like you got to balance it. I like kind of having a balance of the content where you have like engagement content and then a mixture of that with more of like the educational kind of really trying to drive value content. But then, like you said, YouTube's much better for that.
So you went from natural at 27 to enhanced. What was your weight at the peak of your natural time, and then what is it now?
I mean, peak natural time playing football.
So like lean peak.
Lean peak, yeah. Like 235 was like when I was like kind of beefy. 240 playing football, and then I cut down for the first time. And this is when you really have that crap realization of like how much body fat you were carrying. Because I think the first time when I was working my finance job and I got really serious about getting like pretty shredded, I was about 184. And then I think the heaviest lean I got was probably closer to like 188, 190. But never beyond that naturally.
Now you're 275.
Yeah, about that.
So solid 85 pounds, almost 90 pounds of muscle. Yeah. How many years? 3 or 5? So
technically I was 27 and a half to 29 and a half was pretty much just test. Like I would say just barely above TRT. And then getting I told you about like my wife and I wanted to get pregnant. So went into the urologist. He was like, yeah, you're cooked. So started the HMG, HCG, clomiphene protocol and tried to play the game where I could stay on like a TRT, like 100 milligrams, 80 milligrams. Just the quantity came back, but the motility and the quality were not where they needed to be. Very, very low. So I had to get off everything. And so I basically just got off everything, ran HMG, HCG for like 6 months, and then everything was perfect. And then we tried for another 6 months, and then that's when we did IVF, and now we have our 2 beautiful children. But then I was 30 at that point. So really, truly enhanced about 3 years.
And you're 275?
Mm-hmm.
What was your competition weight?
Right about 260, 258.
That's a big human. And you didn't win your card this year? What was the outcome?
It was, I did the Arnold
just
amateur.
Like a month ago?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. And the guy who won, I lost the guy who won the overall. His name was A-Train, but he's like 6'2.5", 275 pounds on stage. Black dude with a waist like this. And basically a lot of people had me winning. I just kind of faded in
You got second in the supers?
Yeah. I kind of faded in the posing in the third round. They said that's basically, I mean, it's like, it's cool to hear this, but also not cool that they basically said you just lost on posing, that you beat him in so many of the shots, but the ones he beat you in, he was just like the front double and the front lat spread, and the side shots were kind of on par, and then you smoked him in the back shots. But
what's your weak body part?
I would say probably hamstrings are the most lagging right now. And then just because, like, you know, obviously long legs.
Yeah.
Legs have now turned, like, were one of my weakest and now become my biggest probably strength. And then I would say probably lats, but they've gotten so much better. And then structure. I think I'm built more like an athlete than a ballerina, so I don't tend to have like the tiniest waist and kind of have to like build around that.
We should do a posing video because I bet I could mess with some stuff.
I'm sure you could. 100%.
I don't know, like that was sort of the thing that a lot of people remember me for, is like going from someone who I was playing the size game like a lot of people trying to get bigger. My waist sort of got out of control, and I talked about that a lot. And then my last year of competing, I brought it down, I think 7 inches or something like that on stage, like a lot. And it's relatively simple to do, and I think everyone can do it to some level. But if that's
what does that come down to? What did that come down for you, if you don't mind asking?
So we lose control of our transverse abdominis, which is effectively this like cinch that can, vacuum your stomach in. So the reason we lose control of that is we just don't ever pay attention to it. As a bodybuilder, we're eating so constantly that our stomach's always full, so those muscles become flaccid and loose. So I was always aware of when I started my day, I was doing vacuums. Before and after every meal, I was doing vacuums, so I would reactivate those muscles. I obviously did a little more portion control, just because, like, man, when you're full, you're like letting everything out. You're like, I just never let that happen. So I was like, I always want to be able to be sure that I can activate my transverse abdominis, be able to suck my stomach in, hold it there, and that becomes my default position. I trained abs every single day for that year. I also did vacuums every single day. I have a very obsessive personality. Like when I commit to something, I'm all in, as you can imagine. So yeah, that was it, man. It's like learning to always be in control, and not just, it's not just like, oh, I want it to be not bad. Like I want it to be, I want people to go, holy shit, And so that was like, I did it probably a couple hours a day of just like vacuums and vacuums and vacuums and posing and vacuums. And like, I could hold vacuum for 10 minutes and not be tired, not be breathing.
That's incredible.
Just practice. Right. And so when I was always saying like, I'm a dog with a bone, same with the calves, man, or how I built my legs. It wasn't like I had genetically blessed legs, but I also was like mental about it. And I was obsessed. So like that level of focus is, I mean, if you're willing to do that work, you can have any outcome that you want for the most part, But yeah, I'll show you a few things that that little nuanced things that can make a difference.
Cool. I'm all about it. I always love learning. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you spend most of your time, or maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but you spend a lot of your time developing content for YouTube. So whether that be training or educational videos, is that your primary focus right now?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, obviously that in business. Bodybuilding for me is a passion. I think it's something I do for me. Like that's why leading into the show, I showed up and people were like, whoa, what is Eric doing here? Because I didn't post a single thing about it. And that was for me just because I wanted it to be 100% for me. I didn't want it to be about content or about, people like, bodybuilding pages posting about me. And I didn't need any of that because it wasn't for that. I think that people hate on me, but I'm like, why would you hate on somebody who's just doing something that they enjoy? I'm not taking away from anybody else. And so for me,
people hate on you for being a bodybuilder?
Like, stick to content kind of thing. Like, I mean, they got, and I don't ever ask for this, but like, for example, Bodybuilding Without Borders, the Instagram, they picked it up. Like the post I did with Carlos where we did like kind of a side-by-side posing thing. And there's, a few comments like, why is this guy getting attention? He's not a real bodybuilder. And then you get people reply, they're like, he is a real bodybuilder. He's just not like, it's not his main focus, so it's like, I don't really care. But I don't ever want that to be the reason I bodybuild, the reason people think I bodybuild is for the clout. I mean, obviously I can spend my time doing way more, let's say, lucrative or productive things in bodybuilding, but I just absolutely love it.
What do you love about it?
The progress, just seeing seeing my body change and like having that, just that you probably had it where you just like look at yourself in the mirror and so when you've gotten like when you're starting to get in condition and now you're seeing the progress you made and you're just like, dude, like what is that? Yeah. And I think that's for me what I love the most about it is because it is a culmination of every single moment, every single one of those hard reps where you're like, I'm like, if I go down this leg press, I might not get back up. And getting through that day after day after day after day. And then you get to that moment where you get to see the hard work lean and you get to see the musculature and you get to see the dryness. And that to me is bodybuilding because now I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. I'm just looking at myself in the mirror and having a moment of just gratitude around, oh, wow, like I did that. Like nobody did that for
Nobody
me.
can. Yeah. Well, man, you nailed it. So many guys come through the gym and they're like, I want to win and I want to be, Mr. Olympia. And that's great to have an external goal. But the people who focus on the process and they're like, I want to be better today than I was yesterday. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. And you're focused on like, I'm going to reveal myself to myself at the show. Like all the work that's gone is getting revealed. And I have to strip away the fat to reveal the sculpture. And like, those, in my experience, are the guys who tend to do better. You're process oriented rather than outcome oriented. Science verifies that process orientation when it comes to goal setting is way more effective than outcome orientation. And it sounds like you just sort of landed there intuitively.
Yeah, and I think that I've tried to refine my whole life and process around that of just like really taking solace and gratitude in the process and the journey, because your goals are always going to change. Like if you think that you have a goal and you're going to get happy when you get there, you're not, because you're going to get to that goal and then it's going to be the next one. So if you're always so concentrated on whatever outcome that may be, it's a moving target and you'll never be truly happy. Whereas if you get really dug in and find enjoyment in the process and the grind and the step-by-step daily effort that you need to take to get to that end outcome, then outcome's going to be different than what you thought it was going to be. But I guarantee you it's going to be 10x. It's that whole saying of like, the man that loves to walk is always going to get further than the man that loves the destination.
Yep.
So if you can start to live in that and live, breathe, and be a part of that, you're going to have so much more a higher level of enjoyment in your day-to-day life. And whatever outcome that is, you're going to be so proud of if it's second place. And that's why I got off stage and people were like texting me like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened again. Yeah. I was like, I'm having the best time, man. It was like such a blast. The guys backstage were awesome. My posing routine was awesome. I came out, I got to go and hang out and lift. I went to the gym like that evening. Like I got off stage, scrubbed the tan off, and I went to the Armory gym. Like, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, I'm going to get fat. I need to go and like work this like extra food off. I was like, I can't wait to get back and train, because for the week before, as you know, it's like more just like, you're depleted. You're just trying to like, move some blood around and work more on posing. So you really kind of like let off the gas pedal the week out. And so for me, I'm like, dude, all right, let's go fucking have some fun. So being in that mindset was so fun for me because I've had shows where I'd literally, my video I was joking about today, after the Van Pro-Am when I got second, where I was just sure I was going to go just smoke everybody last year. And I got second. This guy who ended up going to the 212 Olympia, like he was peeled out of his mind. And I was like, he was like, where are you at? And I was like, I'm outside by the car. And I was like, literally I'd put down a shirt. So I was like lying directly on the grass. I was just lying there, just like looking up at the sky, like, yo, what the fuck am I even wasting my time with this for? And it was like, that was when I was in that kind of headspace of like, everything is focused on winning. And then kind of realized at a certain point, I don't know when it hit me, I was like, I've already won. Like I've got a beautiful family. I've got a great business where I can work and do what I love. I can interact with and meet people like yourself and, go to cool ass gyms like this. Like if you guys have not visited MI40, like please come. It will be 10,000% worth it for you. Like amazing people, amazing equipment. But that's where my head's at now, instead of, oh, what placing did I get? It's like, wow, I'm like getting to live this amazing experience. And tomorrow I get to go home and see my wife and loving kids. And, everything is where it should be. And whatever happens in bodybuilding, I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia. I get to go work out Derek Lunsford this afternoon, which is awesome. Like, it's just crazy. Yep. But I'm never going to be Derek Lunsford. Like it just, I can be open to that. But if I can be 5% better next year and look at myself and realize maybe I'm a pro at that point, or maybe do a pro show and I could stand next to like a Regan Grimes and get one place behind him, I'd be like, dude, yes, that's freaking awesome. I've been looking up to you for like 8 years. So that's where I'm at, honestly, with it.
It's important to acknowledge, man, that as an amateur, you're at the top of the totem pole, and then as a pro, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. So when you get there, and it changes your mindset, at least for me and many other guys it seemed to, is like you get there and now you feel like you have to do more. Because you're like, oh, well, what got me here won't get me there. Exactly. So now I got to do more. And that's what a lot of guys end up hurting themselves as low-level amateurs trying to get to the top of amateur. And a lot of guys end up hurting themselves as low-level pros trying to get to the top of pros because they're like, well, I want to go fast rather than like, I'm going to go at my pace. I'm going to develop my weaknesses, develop my strengths. So I think it's an important thing to acknowledge, and I'm sure you'll do it intentionally because you seem like a pretty reflective guy. Just, man, like the beauty of being the top amateur, one of the top amateurs in the world is it can't be understated, man. Like it's unbelievable. Like it's such a gift to be, one of the top U.S. bodybuilders in the country at the national level. Like that's pretty. And you've got a massive YouTube channel, and you've got a great business and a family. Like you said, you've already won, man.
So basically, you're saying just don't go get the pro card.
No. It depends, right? If it inspires you.
No, I want to get it. Like it's a box I want to check, but like not ever, being doing it in a way that's not in line with like my health, my morals, my ethics, all that stuff. Right. Like,
it's very quick to get sucked into the vacuum of like, because you go to your first show and you do well, and everyone's like, you got to do this one, and you do that one. All of a sudden, you're getting sucked in the vacuum of like, oh, shit, I'm not doing this for myself anymore. I'm doing it for some other reason. I didn't even realize I was doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, guilty of that. At certain points, not all my career, but certain points, you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to be doing that. I want to be doing this. So stay within yourself, man. What's exciting for you in the future, man? The supplement company with Greg seems to be doing pretty well. And I met Greg in Nova Scotia probably for the first time. Mm-hmm. I may have met him when we were younger, but I met him maybe 6 months ago for the first time. Super nice guy, man.
Very nice
Super nice guy. How's that all going?
It's great. I mean, HCLT is doing amazingly well.
What does it stand for?
Harder than last time. So it's like always been his moniker, of train harder than last time, diet harder than last time, do something a little bit more than last time, and it'll elicit a response that you want, right? Don't think like you have to make wholesale changes. Just go a little bit harder than you did yesterday, and you'll probably end up at some certain point where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like, especially kind of started with the training and then kind of bled into everything else that he kind of preaches. But yeah, like it started with training a little harder than last time, or doing your cardio a little harder than last time. But I think it's definitely something that we can all learn from, in the sense of, that's what progressive overload is. If you're trying to be, better, a lifter or a, better athlete, like it's just a little bit more. And so, yeah, with the supplement companies going really, really well. We had our biggest month ever here in March, which was exciting. And then I'm launching an apparel company in about 4 to 6 weeks.
What's that called?
Momentous. And it's literally it's grounded in that exact principle. I came up with a name. Instead of it being spelled all the way out, momentous with the O-U-S, it's actually without the O. So it's a play on like us in the moment.
Yep.
And so it's part of the community and being in the moment and living in and relishing in the process and not being so hyper fixated. Because all these other brands are like, do more, be more, like strive for greatness. And I get that's important, but within the confines of what does that process look like and are you relishing in it? And then I have an app coming out in about 4 to 6 weeks, which is also going to be really cool. It's going to be I'm like training the AI right now to kind of coach people in some of the same methodologies I use for myself. And I'm partnering with my good friend Usain, who's like this 22-year-old natural phenom from Canada, actually. He's Lebanese, but he lives in Canada, and then with Greg as well. And so, yeah, lots of exciting.
What's the app called?
So it's sculpted without the E, or sculpted without the ED. It's just D. It just comes from like wanting to be like, the app is meant to look at your physique. So it has a body scanning feature.
Yep.
And it kind of determines what are your lagging body parts. And then it builds training around not only like a robust, comprehensive program, but also kind of tilted towards things you either want to work on, or that the body scanning feature is like, yeah, you could really use some more upper to lower balance, like more lower body training, or, you're really arm dominant. So I think it behoove you to do some more, lat and chest bias training, things like that.
Effectively what people like we do when people come to us and say like, hey, what do I do with my physique?
Exactly.
So it's like an analysis. That's beautiful. And you said you also do coaching.
I do coaching, yeah. So if I'm hoping this all works out, but I think it will. I'm very excited about it. We actually had a very good conversation about kind of joining forces. He's somebody I respect so much in the space, and it's come to a point now where like I've done it all myself and I love it, but I think that if I could have a team of people that are very, very high level and I can trust in terms, and that's why I haven't kind of relinquished that control, because I'm very OCD about the results my clients are getting. And also my whole thing is about health first. And so it's been really like trying to figure out, okay, who are these people that I can trust? And so I think hopefully soon enough, you guys will see, you'll be able to coach with me personally. But then also I will have a, really high level team of coaches,
running your system, implementing
correct.
it there. That's awesome. Good stuff, man. Well, I'd love if you want to give a shout out to or URLs for your YouTube or your supplements or anything that's important to you. We can wrap with that.
Yeah, I'll appreciate you first and foremost having me on. So if you guys want to go and follow me, it's Eric Janicki Fitness. If you just type Eric Janicki, you'll find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Those are my main platforms. And then HCLT Supplements, my supplement company. And then we have not yet to launch the Instagrams for them yet, but Momentous Clothing and the Sculpted app. So very, very excited for everything that's coming down the pipeline. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm a huge fan.
So good to connect, man. Likewise. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. You guys can head over to muscleintelligence.com. Check that out. Thanks, Eric.
Awesome.
Appreciate you, brother.
Cool, man. Thank you so much.